Hi guys, welcome to today's immigration lesson. We are actually on lesson 8. So we have today's and then we have just 2 more lessons after this before we move on to our next unit. Let's go ahead and look at our vocabulary words. Okay, so our first vocabulary word, let me actually get this out of the way, is citizen. A citizen is a person who has rights given to them by a country's government and has responsibilities that go along with those rights. So using that in a sentence here, an example is, I am proud to have been born in America and to be a citizen of the United States. Then we have naturalized citizen. It's a person born in another country who earns the same rights as native citizens of a different country. So Luca's mom, who was born in Spain, became a naturalized citizen of the United States and was able to vote in her first election. We then have principles, and principles here is not like the principle like Mrs. Ayler or Mr. Talbot. It is principles here means general beliefs or rules. So it says here that eating meat went against Becca's principles as a vegetarian. So that just means that was her belief. She was a vegetarian, so she didn't believe in eating meat. So those were her principles. Then we have rights. Rights is freedoms belonging to a person that the government cannot and should not take away. The Declaration of Independence says that people are born with certain basic rights, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All right, let's go ahead and pull up our story. Our story today is titled, Becoming a Citizen. So we're going to learn today there are different steps that need to be taken in order to become a citizen of the United States. And we're going to kind of listen to the story of 2 immigrant families and how they became citizens. All right. On the 4th of July in 1976, Americans held the biggest birthday party anyone could remember. That day was the 200th birthday of the United States of America. July 4th, 1976 was exactly 200 years after leaders of the original 13 English colonies agreed to support the Declaration of Independence and start a new nation. 200 years later, people attended concerts and parades, and many fireworks lit up the night sky all across the United States. But for one group of people, a group of immigrants, the day was going to be even more special. In the morning, this group of people woke up and got dressed in their best clothes. They left their homes and traveled to the top of a very special hill not far from Charlottesville, Virginia. It was at the top of this hill that Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence and the 3rd president of the United States, had built his home 2 centuries earlier. Jefferson's home is called Monticello. That morning in 1976, the President of the United States at that time, Gerald Ford, would be there to help each immigrant become a citizen of the United States. A citizen is someone who has rights given to them by a country's government and responsibilities that go along with those rights. A person whose parents are U.S. citizens are automatically a U.S. citizen, but someone who is born in another country can become a U.S. citizen too. A person who becomes a U.S. citizen after already being a citizen of another country is called a naturalized citizen. To become a naturalized citizen, a person might do certain things, such as live in the new country for a certain period of time, learn to speak the language spoken in that country, and learn about the laws and history of the new country. Often, naturalized citizens must take a test in their new language about the laws and history of their new country. To complete the process, there is a special ceremony where a group of immigrants gathered together to take an oath, swearing to be loyal to their new country. Naturalization ceremonies are held all over the country throughout the year, but the one in Virginia in 1976 was special because President Gerald Ford was going to speak. Usually the president does not speak at naturalization ceremonies, but because 1976 marked the 200th birthday of the United States, this ceremony and other ceremonies like it on July 4th and 5th was an exception. Earlier that morning, in an apartment a few miles away, husband and wife Jalil and Layla were ready to become American citizens. They had come to the United States from Central Africa 6 years earlier. They left because of troubles in their home country and arrived in the United States with very little money. Once they arrived, they worked very hard to start a new life and make a living. Jalil delivered pizzas all over town of Charlottesville. Layla found a job placing products on the shelves of a grocery store. Jalil told his wife, "This is America, Layla. If we work hard, we have the opportunity to have a good life." 6 years later, Jalil was the manager of the pizza restaurant, and he and Layla had a newborn daughter, Nia. On the 5th of July, the three of them drove towards Jefferson's Hill and Monticello for the naturalization ceremony. "There," Layla said, pointing at a highway sign, "turn there." As Jalil made the turn, another car followed. In the other car was Enrique and Pilar Gomez and their 4 children. The Gomez family had come to the United States from northern Mexico, moving first to Texas, then later to Virginia. Pilar worked at a company that published books, and Enrique taught history in a nearby university in Virginia. The Gomez family had been in the United States for 12 years now. When they first immigrated to the United States, they had thought, "We are Mexican and we will continue to enjoy our Mexican customs even though we live and work in America." But now they also wanted to become U.S. citizens. Enrique remembered the family discussions that had led to this day. One night, 3 years ago, while eating dinner with some friends, Enrique thought, "How can I make a life outside of Mexico and not be a citizen in the new country in which I am living? How can I teach American history and not become a part of it? I want to vote for the leaders of this country and make my home here." Their friend, who was born in the United States, encouraged them. "It's quite a process to become a U.S. citizen, but I know you can do it." "Yes, it is quite a process. First of all," Pilar said, "you have to be at least 18 years old. Then you have to live in the United States for at least 5 years. You also have to promise to obey the laws. You have to learn about U.S. history and show that you understand the U.S. government works by taking a test." Their friend grinned. "Yes, it is helpful to understand how the government works, though it does sometimes seem very complicated." They all laughed. Enrique said, "We don't have to explain every little detail. We just have to know about the birth of this nation, some basic parts of the U.S. Constitution, and some facts about how the U.S. government works." "What about your children?" asked one of the other friends. "If you and Pilar become citizens, do your children become citizens too?" Enrique answered, "Yes, if we become citizens of the United States, our children will be as well. In fact, that's one of the main reasons we want to become naturalized citizens. We want our children to grow up as United States citizens." So now Enrique, Jalil, along with their families, gathered in front of Monticello and joined the crowd on the wide green lawn where a stage had been set up and a band was playing. President Ford and a few other speakers came out, and the president began to speak to the crowd. He began, "I am very proud to welcome all of you as fellow citizens of the United States of America. In 1884, France, as a birthday gift, presented the United States with a statue, the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. But you have given us a birthday present beyond price, yourself, your faith, your loyalty, and your love. We thank you with full and friendly hearts. Pointing at Thomas Jefferson's house, President Ford continued, Jefferson and his fellow leaders set out to construct or create a new kind of nation based on a new idea. Men may be trusted, Jefferson said, to govern themselves. He and all the other patriots who gave us our Declaration and our Constitution studied different kinds of government before they created the U.S. government. How well they built it is told by millions of people who came and still coming from other places among the world. These new Americans brought pieces of their homes they left behind, a song, a story, a dance, a tool, a seed, a recipe, the name of a place, the rules of a game, the trick of a trade. These additions of traditions and cultures have made America unique among nations, and America's is a new kind of people. President Ford continued, to be an American is to share in those principles which the Declaration proclaims or states and the Constitution protects. Looking at his audience, Ford said, you came as strangers and you leave here as citizens, equal in rights, equally protected by the law, with an equal share in the promise of the future. Jefferson wrote about the pursuit of happiness. Our Constitution does not promise that any of us will find happiness, but we are free to try. When the president finished speaking, everyone cheered. Enrique and Pilar hugged one another, and then they hugged their children. Next to them in the crowd, Jalil and Layla were doing the same. Then Layla turned to hug Pilar, and Enrique turned to hug Jalil. Congratulations, they said to one another. Now we are American citizens. All right, guys, did you hear the steps that need to be taken in order to become an American citizen? So you need to live in the country for at least 5 years. You need to speak the language, and you need to take a test and know about our history and how our government works. And so it's a written test that is taken in English. And if they pass the test, then they are able to become U.S. citizens. All right, guys, thanks for stopping in today. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.